How's it going? Episode 16, Quarantine 2020. Need a new intro. That looked great. Welcome. Today's episode, I'm going to stay on the theme of trying to keep it under 10 minutes. I was shooting for 5 to 8, but I think I'm going to try and keep it to under 10 minutes. I think that's the goal. So, episode 16 is about being a football player in the 90s. Yes, I was an athlete. I played football, and I want to go over some of the things that are definitely very different now in football than they were. Okay, so the first one, the measure of whether or not you were working out, the measure of whether or not you were strong, all came down to one thing. And I know all those guys I played with, they can answer that question right now without me having to say it, but it was just bench press. That's all that mattered. Regular bench press, as much weight as you could put on the bar, that was a measure of whether or not you were working out. My first few years playing on the team, captains, older players, you get this question your whole career, but everybody would ask you, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? What's your bench? Hey, what are you doing? How was your off season? What's your bench? And then coaches would ask that, hey, what's your bench? What's your bench? And then scouts would ask that, hey, what's the bench? What's your bench? No, I never had any scouts talk to me. I know people are going to call me on that. But friends of mine who had scouts talk to them would say that's what scouts would ask too. So it was all the bench press. And we would do countless hours of work to get our bench press numbers up a little bit, just a little bit, and sacrifice all the other aspects that we could be improving just to increase our bench by 5 pounds. And I mean, I thought I did well. I think I got my bench to around 350, and it wasn't good enough. I needed to have it at 4 because I had short arms. No diet plan. There was no diet plan. They just needed weight. How much do you weigh? 240. Not heavy enough. Get heavier. Nowadays, there's such a healthy way to gain weight, I would hope. It wasn't a healthy way to gain weight. They just needed weight, and they needed it fast. My first year with the Rams, I was 240. My second year, I was 280. My third year, I was 300. My fourth year, I was 315. None of that healthy. I gained that weight with McDonald's and BK. I would eat sometimes one meal a day, and it would have 8,000 calories in it. I mean, a typical McDonald's trip for me was a triple Big Mac, which wasn't on the menu. You had to ask for that. Triple Big Mac, supersized fries, 6 chicken nuggets, 2 cheeseburgers, a milkshake, and then a Coke or Pepsi or whatever it was. That was just a typical meal. If I was really hungry, sometimes I would get more. So, yeah, it was such an unhealthy way to live. Okay, moving on. This is the big one, I think. The big one about football in the 90s was concussions. We didn't know about concussions. Even after I left football, my last year was in 2000, even after then, there still wasn't a gigantic knowledge base, especially here in Saskatchewan, about concussions. Nobody knew anything about them. They were funny. We just didn't know. And we didn't know how damaging this was going to be to us later. And I remember watching the movie Concussion, and they talk about how long these guys have had their brains getting scrambled because they start playing like Pop Warner football when they're so young, all the way up until the pros. And you look at some of these pros, they play for 15 years. It's incredible. I mean, I didn't start playing football until grade 9, and I played 2 years of junior, 2 years of university football. So I didn't have an incredibly long career, but my brain got mushed a few times. I don't think it ever did in high school, but I think in my time with the Rams, I think I might have had 4 concussions. One was right at the end of a game. We were playing Manitoba at home, and they had this gigantic fullback. And I remember it was the last play of the game. We were getting shit pumped, and so it was in '99. And he came through the gap, and I met him, and we went head to head, and I just saw stars. I'm sure I passed out because when I fell down, I just remember kind of coming to, or being groggy on the field and thinking the game's over. Like, I want to get out of here. I don't want to lay here now on the last play of the game. So I just got up, and the sun had covered Taylor Field, where and with the high bleachers, the sun had covered me, so I was in the shade. And I remember guys kind of helping me, And I was stumbling, I was struggling, but guys were helping me because we were all pissed off. We just wanted to leave. We didn't want to be there anymore. And I remember walking out the front entrance, and the sun hit me right in the eyes, and I just bang. And luckily my dad was there. My dad's short, he's 5'10", so he holds me up. And then I kind of came back to it, and I remember my D-line coach, actually, somebody had told him that I'd taken a hit, and he came over and found me. They took me to the hospital and did, I think, what they were supposed to do, which, I mean, back then I fell asleep in the waiting room. So the second concussion, there was this great big giant dude named Matt Sheridan who played for the Manitoba Bisons. I think he was like 405 or 415. He was a monster, and we were thinking about him all week. That's all we thought about, was this guy, this monster that we had to play. He ended up playing the CFL for a few years. And I don't want to say we were scared of him, but he was on our minds the whole time. He was on our minds. And I remember the second or third play of the game, I saw him kind of try to make a block on a running play away from me, and he peeled back towards me. And I thought, I could see the play ending. They weren't going to get the first down, so I knew we were getting off the field. And I thought, I'm just going to hit him. I'm just going to see what happens. And so I set myself, and I hit him as hard as I could. And I kind of used his weight against him and twisted, and I knocked him down. But wow, we went head to head. Of course, it was the 90s. That's what you did in the 90s. You went head to head. And I definitely had a concussion. I didn't know where I was. I kind of just, again, you don't lay on the field, so I kind of just stumbled off. And I remember looking around and going, oh, this was also in Manitoba, so against Manitoba. So I realized I walked off the bench, and I was on the Manitoba side of the bench. And I think one of their coaches just kind of put his hand on my back and just pushed me towards our bench. So I stumbled over there, and I remember one of the O linemen from our team sees me and goes, "Did you just knock that big guy down? Nice job!" Bang! And he smacks me in the head, and my head was just ringing. I think our offense went out. That was in 2000, so our offense was a little stronger that year. So, but I know I played the next series. So I didn't tell anybody that I'd been drilled, but it kind of came around, and I kept playing. The last one was... it was a bad one. I don't know what happened. I just kind of woke up in the middle of practice, and I was carrying bags across the middle of the field. I was in the middle of a drill. Guys were yelling at me, getting in my way, and I was disoriented and confused. And I went to the trainer's room, and they had a list of my classes, what classes I was taking, and they asked me what classes I'd had that day. And I answered the classes from the day before. They asked me who got me to practice. I didn't know. That one was a scary one, and because I don't even remember taking a headshot. So that one was a little bit of a tough one. But yeah, I think those were the major ones. I think I might have had one more at one point. I'm very hopeful and glad to see the differences now in concussions and how they're taken much more seriously. And I mean, they should be taken much more seriously. When I get a knock in the head now, I have deja vu horribly. As soon as I take it, like if I just bump my head a little bit, or my daughters and I are play fighting and I get whacked in the head, I get deja vu to the point where I have to sit down and be like, oh, I've been here before. This has happened before. So it's a little bit terrifying for me as I go. But would I get rid of those 4 years? No, I loved it. I loved playing football. I wouldn't give it up for anything. So it was... At this point, I'm still saying that it was worth it. I don't know how much my brain is, and as I get older, if it's going to be worse. But that was playing football in the 90s. Honorable mention goes to all the steroids. Somebody brought that up to me today. I said I was going to talk about football in the 90s, and they said, so it's going to be about bench press and needles. I don't think there was as many steroids as people think there were, but they were there. I never took anything. I never even took a supplement. I wouldn't even take creatine, and creatine was like all the rage in the 90s. So thanks for listening. There was a lot of good content. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you soon.